そういうことですね。しかもそれは話したら収録なんで、後からそれはレジスタにします。だから TBA では音声は専門家だ。本線でその通訳の本線一つのよろしくお伝えください。しばらく後で。はい、そうですね。はい。
繋がんないだけじゃん。繋がんないんじゃない。声が出てない。
Hello, Mr. Goon.
Hello.
Recording in progress.
Time will be ready in 4 minutes.
Okay.
So please stay with us. Thank you.
Mic test, mic test, mic test. Mic test, mic test. 来てないとか、マイクテスト、マイクテスト。マイクテスト、マイクテスト。
ゴーさんの方の音があれなのかな。
音出てましたよ、さっき。
ゴーさん出た。
なんかやりとりちょっとしてもらえる。
今ね、音私喋ったら平気だったんですけど、ちょっとまた音だけ見てください。はい。
Mr. Goon. Mr.
Yeah.
Goon, hi, good to see you again. This is Terry Jimbo in Tokyo. Mr. Goon, how long do you wish to speak in the press conference, or you want to just take questions and
No, I will take only the question. I think the Gohara is making the speech.
Okay,
and making
okay,
the
okay, that's
presentation.
clear. Okay, that's fine.
And
That's
then
fine.
I will be available for questions to support Gohara-san or
Okay,
any other
okay,
question.
that's great. Okay, so I'll get to you in 3 minutes. Okay.
Okay.
リエゴさん、ちょっと早いけどどうしますか。
ゴールさんおっしゃったから始めようか。一応じゃあ。
2分早いけど大丈夫ですか。はい。じゃあちょっと真ん中お上がりになってください。はい。ちょっと早いんですけど始めますので、ちょっと早いんですが、後ろ大丈夫ですか。大丈夫そっち。いおりさん大丈夫ですか。ダメ。はいはい。ちょっとこのままお待ちになって。はい。先にもしじゃあ写真だけ撮っていただいて、写真撮る方はどうぞ前の方進みになってください。まだ時間あります。
信号変わっちゃうんだよ。
テレビの方にはZoom の録画をこちらでしてますので、ご希望があればこちらで録画した Zoom のゴーンさんのワンショットの絵ですね、それを後からコピーをして出すことができますので、それを担当の方に言ってください。それは。それからお手元にですね、英語の資料、今日の郷原さんの会見の英語の資料が言ってますが、日本語版もあるんですが、ちょっと事前にもうコピーが追いつかなかったので、もし日本語版をご希望の方、間に合った？日本語版。今配ってる、今配ってますが、もし手元に、時間内に来なかったらまた言っていただければ、その日本語版も後でお渡しできます。
はい。大丈夫です。
吉田さん大丈夫 ?OK？ ズームの方 OK？ はい。はい。Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming for a press conference at the FCCJ. My name is Terry Jimbo. I chair a committee that organized all the press event at the club, and I'm a moderator today. And we have two speakers. One is sitting right next to me, a lawyer, Nobuo Gohara. I think he's kind of usual at this club, but he will speak first. Then we have another distinguished speaker from, I believe he's in Lebanon, or he will tell you where he is now, because I have no way of confirming exactly where he is, but Mr. Carl Gohn is standing by via Zoom. And Mr. Gohara will speak briefly, 15 minutes, including interpreter, and then we will open the floor for Q&A. And of course, I think all of you know that Mr. Gohara represents Mr. Gohn in the lawsuit filed by Nissan in 2020, in which Nissan initially demanded the 10 billion yen. Now I understand that they increased the amount to 50.5 billion yen. So that's the lawsuit. That's actually the only lawsuit taking place in Japan, in Yokohama District Court. And Mr. Gohn just recently, in May, filed a suit against Nissan and its executives for $1 billion, which translates into something like 140 billion yen for damages and also moral or the punitive damage as well. So I'm sure they will talk about the case, but Mr. Gohara is the lawyer representing Mr. Goon in the only legal, well, it's a civil case, but it's only a trial taking place in Japan. So let me give microphone to Mr. Gohara first, and then we'll open the floor for Q&A. And by the way, we have interpreter today, Seth Reams, and he will translate Gohara-san's Japanese into English. And are we going to translate the English into Japanese as well? Seth, can you do that?
Yes.
Okay. So since we have many Japanese reporters today, we will translate English into Japanese as well. So, じゃあ、小原先生お願いします。
カルロス・ゴーン氏の日本での民事訴訟の代理人を務めております弁護士の郷原です。
Good afternoon. My name is Gohara. I represent Mr. Goon as counsel in the civil lawsuit in Japan.
日産が提起したゴーン氏に対する民事訴訟のこれまでの経過、現状についてお話をしたいと思うんですが、まず最初に私の方から強調しておきたいことは、今回のこの日産が提起した訴訟は極めて不当な訴訟だと考えています。検察の無理筋のゴーン氏逮捕の容疑事実、禁商法違反の事実に辻褄を合わせるために、この訴訟の中で日産はもう完全に論理矛盾に陥っており、当方の被告側の主張に対してほぼ1年もまともに認否すらできないような状況に陥り、そこで持ち出してきたその日産の主張の内容も裁判所もちょっと理解できないというようなことで、訴訟が非常に時間がかかり遅延しています。こういう極めて不当な現状にあることをまず強調しておきたいと思います。
Today, I have the opportunity to share with you the tracking of this lawsuit over the past few years. And today, I particularly wish to emphasize that this suit that was filed by Nissan is extremely unreasonable in its aspects because it essentially follows on the prosecution's arrest that was forced and it was unnaturally brought into the criminal realm of prosecution, and the so-called violation of the Financial Instruments and Exchange Act has been followed on in the civil case, and Nissan has been forced to tailor their case to the criminal proceedings, and has fallen into a situation where their logic is now in a paradox. We have made assertions, that is, the defense has made assertions for over the length of about a year, and Nissan can neither admit nor deny our assertions in court at this point. The court is now no longer able to comprehend Nissan's arguments in court at this time. So I must say that this is an extremely unreasonable lawsuit.
それではこれまでの経過の主な点だけをちょっと簡単に振り返ってみたいと思います。2018年11月19日に禁商法違反でゴーン氏とグレッグ・ケリー氏が逮捕され、そしてその3日後に日産の臨時取締役会でゴーン氏とケリー氏が代表取締役を解職されました。その後の刑事事件の経過については、これはもう皆さんご存知の通りだと思います。翌年4月8日、日産の臨時取締役会で、臨時株主総会です。臨時株主総会で、ゴーン氏、ケリー氏の取締役解任が議決されました。そして5月14日、日産がゴーン氏の繰り延べ報酬、 退任後に、支払いを繰り延べたというふうに日産が主張している報酬、これを繰り延べ報酬と言います。その繰り延べ報酬があるとして、それについて、平成22年3月期から平成30年3月期の有価証券報告書の訂正報告書を提出し、合計90億7900万円分、これを未払い金として計上したものです。
そこまででよろしいですか。
はい。
Now allow me to highlight some of the key dates over the timeline that has been provided. On November 19th, 2018, Mr. Gohn and Mr. Kelly were arrested on charges of violating the Financial Instruments and Exchange Act. And 3 days later, on November 22nd, in an emergency Nissan board meeting, relieved Mr. Gohn and Mr. Kelly from their positions as representative directors. In the following year, on April 8th, 2019, and I must correct this, this was an emergency, or I should say an extraordinary shareholders meeting of Nissan. Mr. Gohn and Mr. Kelly were dismissed as directors, that is, board members of the board of directors. On May 14th in the same year of 2019, Nissan submitted corrections to its annual securities filings under the assertions that there was postponed remuneration attributed to Mr. Gohn after he would leave the company, and they refiled their filings for the years of 2010 ending in March up until 2018 ending in March for a total of 9 billion yen.
そして9月9日に日産は元会長らによる不正行為に関する社内調査報告書についてというリリースを出しました。ここでゴーン氏らの一連の不正の規模は全体で約300億円以上という極めて巨額などとリリースしたんですが、これは要旨のみ、報告書はその根拠となる事実認定などは全く記載されず、結論だけが記載されたものです。で、ここで指摘された不正の内容は、報酬開示義務違反、退職医療金打ち切り支給額水増し、ブラジル、レバノンでの住宅私的使用などの不正を指摘したものでした。そしてその年の12月31日、ゴーン氏は関西国際空港からトルコを経由してレバノンに出国をいたしました。そこまでです。
And I should also note that the criminal case of Mr. Gohn started in this time frame, but I will not discuss those details because I'm sure many of those in our audience are well informed about that aspect of this case. I now would like to turn to further key dates in 2019. September 9th, Nissan releases a report on misconduct, and this was a report, an internal investigation report, and the release mentions that there were essentially amounts estimated at roughly 30 to 35 billion yen or more. However, this was a summary only in the release and concluding on certain matters, but they revealed no evidence. The misconduct is listed here, but primarily it has delved into the violation in terms of disclosure obligations for compensation, conflating amounts payable under retirement allowance, that system that had been discontinued in years past, personal use of residences in Brazil and Lebanon, and so forth. And then Mr. Gohn, on December 31st of 2019, left Japan and landed in Lebanon, we understand.
そして2020年2月12日、日産が横浜地裁にゴーン氏に対する訴状を提出しました。総額は100億4223万7160円。その内訳は、金商法違反、繰り延べ報酬の錯失によって、30億円の損害、それは社内調査として、30億円かかったという主張です。 それから信用毀損10億円、寄付金3億円余り、コーポレートジェットの私的使用、3.2億円、レバノンとパリでの、日本とパリでの住宅の使用に関する損害として1.5億円などです。でこの訴訟に対してですね、いろいろ経緯がありましたけれども、この民事訴訟の訴訟代理人として私が受任しまして、ゴーン氏側が応訴しました。そして第1回の口頭弁論期日が同年11月13日、3月13日に第2回口頭弁論期日が開かれて、このあと何回か両方の主張のやり取りが行われました。そして2022年の3月にご存知のように、ケリー氏と日産の刑事事件で日産に有罪判決、ケリー氏に対して一部有罪の判決が出されました。でその後、昨年になりますけれども、同年6月24日に日産側が訴えの変更として、請求を155億400万円近くに拡張するということを行いました。この中身は、テネシー州で提起されたクラスアクションの和解金を支払った、その弁護士費用を支払った、それから日本での罰金とか課徴金などを、損害が増えたということで、訴えを拡張したものでした。でこのあと7月の1日、そこまでです。
Following on now in English. Nissan filed suit in February 12, 2020 against Mr. Gohn in Yokohama District Court. The lawsuit total for this claim, the total claims of 10,042,237,160 yen. And it's comprised of 3 billion yen for the violation of the Financial Instruments and Exchange Act and creating postponed remuneration, 3 billion yen attributed to the internal investigation, and that was explained in terms of the report just moments ago. Another 1 billion yen for their reputation, 320 million yen for corporate jet, 150 million yen for a use of personal use of residences and so forth. On November 13th, 2020, the first date of oral proceedings was held at the court, and since then several court dates have taken place. Moving to the important date of March 3rd, 2022, I wish to note that the court ruled on the criminal case against Nissan and Mr. Kelly. Nissan was convicted in this decision. Mr. Kelly suffered a partial conviction. Subsequently, for the civil case, plaintiff Nissan expanded its claims on June 24th of the same year to now 15.5 billion and about 4 million yen. The increases were comprised of the settlement they paid in a class action suit in Tennessee, additional legal fees, and then fines and surcharges that they paid in Japan.
7月7日、第7回口頭弁論期日で、被告、ゴーン氏の側から、金商法違反黒部報酬の請求に対して、仮に請求が認められた場合に備えた予備的な抗弁として、退任後の確定報酬による総裁の抗弁を提出しました。これはそれに先立って、ケリー氏、日産に対して金商法違反で有罪判決が出されたということもあり、これは全く不当な判決だと私は考えておりますが、日本の裁判所ですから、このような同じような判断が出されて、この繰り延べ報酬についての、ゴーン氏の責任が認められる可能性があるというふうに考え、 仮にそのような判断が行われた場合には、これはゴーン氏に確定報酬があると、すでにゴーン氏の報酬は検察や日産が主張しているとおりに確定しているということになるわけですから、仮にそういう判断がなされたときには、その同額でこの請求に対して相殺をするという主張をしたものです。でそれにはい、
On July 7th of 2022, on the 7th court date, we, as the defendant, filed what we call the preliminary offset defense. This is essentially our assertion of offsetting the fixed remuneration that Nissan and the prosecution is saying that Mr. Gohn was essentially provided. And this fixed remuneration would have been provided after his retirement. And the offset is as follows. Because Mr. Kelly, in his partial conviction, the decision alluded to the violation of the Financial Instrument and Exchange Act. It may be the case that the Japanese court may rule similarly or in the same way for Mr. Gohn. And our offset defense states that if that were to be the case, any claims that were recognized would be essentially offset with that remuneration that Mr. Gohn were to receive.
それに対して日産側は9月30日までに認否を提出するというふうに言っておりましたが、結局、この認否は提出されませんでした。その次の第8回口頭弁論でも認否は行われず、年末に日産側からは、金商法違反ではないとしても、繰越報酬を、国延べ報酬を搾取すること自体が別の犯罪に当たる可能性があり、原告は義務違反の内容を金商法違反よりも広く捉えているというような主張をし、そしてその後も日産はこの点についての認否を行わず、最終的にですね、この4月12日、今年の4月12日の弁論準備期日では、このような主張を行いました。総裁の答弁には、仮に当たるとしても、同額の損害賠償請求権があるので、相殺すると、それによって、ゴーン氏側の請求権を消滅したという総裁の再答弁を提出したと。でこのような、ゴーン氏が、日産側の主張に対して、裁判所は、この仮に債務があれば同額の損害賠償請求権が発生し相殺するというのが全く理解できない、裁判例か学説があれば出してほしいということを裁判所が疑問を呈したわけですが、それ以降日産はほとんどまともにこの疑問に対して答えていません。そして7月の11日の弁論期日でようやくですね、日産は総裁の答弁についてこの主張に対してはすべて認めるということを口頭で裁判所で申し述べました。というところまでがこれまでの経過です。
In relation to this offset defense that the defendant has asserted, Nissan said that they would file their reply by September 30th last year and admit or deny the assertion. They did not. On the following court date in October, they did not. And so Nissan has come since that time not entering anything for some months. And then Nissan, late in 2022, started to assert that the violation could have been a breach of obligation and a possible other crime, and not necessarily a violation of the FIEA. So there was a broader context that was brought to the attention of the court. But in 2023, Nissan continued to delay any response on this particular assertion. Again, instead saying that they could redirect their offset, and what they're offsetting against our offset is that they would have damages of equal value that they would be entitled to. So that meant that any claims for this postponed remuneration, the fixed remuneration that is, remain in dispute. In April, there was another oral briefing at the court where the court was trying to tell Nissan that they could not really understand where they are coming from on how they can conjure up an equal value of offset. And finally, most recently at the oral briefing in July, Nissan finally accepted or admitted to all of the facts concerning this offset defense, but only in court and only orally.
で最後の紙がですね、この訴訟の両方の主張をまとめたものです。ちょっと簡単に申しますと、先ほども言ったようにですね、日産の側はゴーン氏が毎年受け取っていた約10億円の報酬以外に約10億円の報酬が繰り延べられていると、その部分は確定しているということを主張し、検察もそれを前提に金商法違反としてゴーン氏を逮捕しました。でその事実について、それが金商法違反だとして、日産は今回の訴訟を起こしてきたわけです。ですから、もしその日産の主張が仮に認められるんだとすれば、確定報酬を認めることになるわけですから、その分はゴーン氏がすでに退任している以上、ゴーン氏が請求できるのは当然だということになります。ということで、それは、支払う、その場合には支払いなさいという主張をゴーン氏側はしたと。それに対して全くまともな認否もしない、そして全く裁判所も理解できないような主張を持ち出しているのが今の日産、原告日産の訴訟対応だということです。以上です。
So I draw myself now to the final page of the material that has been distributed that encapsulate the assertions made by the parties. Nissan has contended and asserted that in addition to the approximate 1 billion yen in compensation that was paid to Mr. Gohn over the years, every year, there was another 1 billion yen that was not paid out, that was postponed remuneration, and that this is a fixed amount, meaning it is payable. And this was the prompting of the violation of the FIEA, and that was the grounds for the arrest by the prosecution and for the prosecution's case. Nissan's civil case is following on this same assertion, and for this fixed remuneration, if it is indeed fixed and payable, then that means Mr. Gohn can claim payment. That is where we say, if it is fixed, you should pay it. And that is where Nissan has been in a position of neither admitting or denying the position that the defense has put forth.
Okay, thank you very much. So we're going to go to Q&A. If you please raise your hand if you're designated. Come forward. There are two microphones on the both ends of the front table. So come up and cite your name and affiliation. And I'd like to take as many questions as possible. So please make one question only per person. And also many people watching online. And we will accept the questions online. However, I cannot guarantee that I'll be able to read every single question. So let's start. Who will go first? Hans, go ahead.
Hello, Hans Grimmel from Automotive News. Thank you for coming to speak with us today, Mr. Gohn. This is a little bit off topic from your lawsuits, but can you please give us an assessment of the direction of the alliance this day between Nissan and Renault, with all the troubles they've had, the difficulties they've had in realigning the cross-shareholdings and in getting the investment deal up and running with Ampere, and some of the recent executive upheaval at Nissan. It seems that they're still having some trouble sorting out the aftermath of your arrest and adjusting to this new age of electrification. From your point of view, how have things changed, I guess, since your era of the alliance? How does the alliance stand today compared to that?
Seth, please.
Yeah. はい、ハンズ・クレメル、オートモーティブニュースです。ゴーンさん、少しトピックが、違うかもしれませんけれども、今の日産・ルノーのアライアンスについてのアセスをお願いできますか。例えば、株の式の持ち合いについてのこのところのいきさつや、電動化事業のアンペアの立ち上げにおける、ある程度のぎこちなさや、日産幹部が、いろいろ混迷を深めているようですし、逮捕後の混乱から全然持ち直してないような側面が見えたり、電動化の時代の幕開けにもかかわらず、どういう状況か、今一つ、教えてもらいたいんですけれども。
Mr. Goon, please.
Yeah, thank you. Well, good morning or good afternoon, everybody. First, obviously, what I told you from the beginning is happening. And what's happening is that after my arrest, the alliance was shattered. You had the kind of big show with big words about the alliance, but in fact, no work was done. And no work was done for obvious reason, because trust was lost. And when trust is lost, there is nothing you can do between two organizations. The only thing you can do is to start something less ambitious, much more restricted, and that's exactly what we're seeing today. So you have this alliance, which has been created in 1999, has been growing for 18 or 19 years, delivered huge results for Nissan, for Renault, and at the end for Mitsubishi. That was stopped in 2018 with my arrest. Then you had the period of time with big words and very little action. And now what they're trying to do is, and with the latest agreement, it's trying to go for a mini alliance with a very reduced scope of cooperation, still a lot of distrust between the two organizations. That's exactly the situation. And frankly, I don't know, this soap opera of the defenestration of Gupta has been frankly laughable, because I understood that there was a new corporate governance with the new rules, with a lot of transparency. All of this was frankly a story for idiots. The cloak and daggers continues. The CEO has been defenestrated for no obvious reason except an alleged misconduct that was not even clear. At least he was lucky not to end up in prison, which obviously would be too much to defenestrate the chairman of the board in 2018, put him in prison, and then do the same thing with the COO. So he's a little bit lucky that he did not end up like this. That's my story about the lines. That's my vision about the lines. So what you're going to see is a kind of a very small and reduced cooperation between two companies that at the first opportunity are going to be unbundling everything they have been bundling for the 19 years of success that the alliance have seen.
Okay, says please.
Yeah.
You can kind of summarize it. You don't have
Sure.
to translate every single word.
日本語に、訳していきますけれども、少し橋を折っていきます。当初から私、自身、説明してきたことが起こっていると思います。皆さん、こんにちは。このアライアンスの打ち壊しが、起こったんですね。そういうことは、要するにその最初のところは言葉でこうやって大きな話をして、口では何か言ってるけども、実際裏では何も動いてない。そういうことで、結局、信頼関係が崩れていって何もできなくなっていると。その結果、限られたより本当に目標としては低いことの実現しか進められなくなった。ですから99年から18年間、私が逮捕される2018年までずっと大きく成長、大きな業績を上げてきて、そして最終的には三菱自動車も加わっていたところが終わってしまって、その後はなんとなくミニアライアンスがただ残っていて、不信感がまだまだ会社間の間で大きく残っていて、またグプタ氏の方もソープオペラのような形の追放劇となって、ガバナンスをガラス張りにしていると言いつつも、全くそこは不透明で陰謀が続いている。 理由のない追放で何か不正をやっとるかどうかというところ、ただグプタ氏は運よく刑務所に連れられていかなかった、連行されなかったということが言えるでしょうね。表向きはそういうことであって、今後も小さな限られた協力しかないので、今まで結びついて頑張ってきたところが少しずつほころんでいくのではないかという感じです。
Okay, well, let's go to the next question. Kageyama-san.
Yeah, I'm Yuri Kageyama with Associated Press. So I want to ask you, Mr. Gon, that we understand you want to fight back, and we have seen that you achieved a lot, and, because we were there to watch you, what you did at Nissan. But, why are you doing this? You already have a movie, you have books, but you still want to fight back. And then, so my first question is why, and what is the best possible scenario are you hoping for? Mr. Gohara outlined all the money that they're trying to get from you, so are you going to break even with this other trial in Lebanon? Nissan's not going to answer to any court proceeding in Lebanon. So what are you foreseeing? And this time you're going after some individuals, right? I mean, do you want to punish them? Are you going to do more lawsuits in France or Japan? And where can we see the details of your lawsuit? Can you email us the lawsuit? Because we haven't seen all the details yet.
Yes, please.
はい、AP の鍵山さんですね、どういうことでしょう、ゴンさん、ファイトバックですか、今から、反撃ですかね、日産の、方で、私たちはずっと、ゴン氏の功績を見てきました。そしてその後、今映画も出して本も出して、そのいろいろな形で戦って、状況に対して取り組んでいるんですけども、ベストシナリオはどうなりますか。日産から、レバノンの告訴を通じて回収できるんでしょうか。個人も、同時に告訴していますけれども、何かの報復が考えられているのでしょうか。また裁判はフランスや日本でも提起することになるのでしょうか。訴状を我々は見てないので内容について分かりませんので、その点、気になっています。
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Gon.
Okay, well, there are 15 questions in your question, so I'm going to try to answer some of them, and please, if I was incomplete, let me know. First, what Gohara-san is explaining to you is that the lawsuit made by Nissan in Japan has been adjusted many times, and proofs have not been given. Even simple questions like, do you admit that you owe him 9 billion yen or not, took a couple of years to answer. That means this lawsuit is, in my opinion, hollow. I'm going to fight it in Japan, and hopefully if the civil legal system is a little bit better than the criminal legal system in Japan, we should prevail, but we will see. Now, the lawsuit I'm doing in Lebanon is a criminal lawsuit. This is not a civil lawsuit. It's a criminal lawsuit based on many crimes that Nissan has committed in Lebanon. Crimes which have been now supported by facts, witnesses, visits, names, and these people cannot get away with it. And that's what I'm pursuing. On top of this, Nissan created a lot of damage for me, damage that cannot be repaired. The only thing I can obtain is a small compensation for the damage. And this small compensation towards my damage, we have quantified it, and it is the object of the consequence of the criminal lawsuit in Lebanon. Well, obviously, people will be called to come to the criminal justice in Lebanon. And if they do not come, well, they will bear the consequence of not coming and not coming to defend themselves. So this is not a civil lawsuit. This is a criminal lawsuit, which will have financial consequences. I just want to remind you, because you seem to forget a lot of important facts that happened in this case. The United Nations expert, after my arrest, after they studied the case, they said that my arrest in Japan was arbitrary, that it violated all my human rights, asked the Japanese government to make an investigation about how this could happen in a country like Japan. And they also asked for compensation. This is not my lawyer asking for that. This is the United Nations experts meeting, examining the case in a very objective way. So what I'm looking for is no revenge. It's just I'm trying to have part of my rights back, and I just want to make sure that all the criminals and the plotters cannot sleep quietly in their bed after what they have committed.
Okay, thank you. Seth, please.
Yeah. はい、今、1問の中に15問ほど質問があったようなので、できるだけ回答していきますけれども、何か漏れたときには教えてください。小原さんの説明であったように、日産の訴えはですね、本当に事実無根というか、そういうエビデンスを出してこない中で、そしてそれに対して我々の方の主張に対して認否がなかなか出てこない。例えば90億円の支払いですね、ゴーン氏に対して、私に対して払うのか払わないのかすらですね、答えてもらえないような、そういうような状況の中で、刑事事件においては、私どもは日本で戦うことについては非常に厳しいというところはある一方、民事事件の方では何かしら私どもも戦う余地があると思って、日本のこの訴訟が続いていますけれども、レバノンの提起されているこの告訴は刑事です。そして犯罪に対して行われていることですね。それは証人もいる、事実もあって、そういうことに対して日産らは逃げられないということになります。そして私の被ったそのいろいろ毀損をしてしまっているこのダメージ、受けたダメージですね、これは修復不可能ですので、それに対して我々の方で定量化した形で賠償を求めているものであって、レバノンでは刑事告訴に対しての出頭が求められるので、それに対して出頭しないということについては、それなりの結果がその当人たちには及ぶという可能性が高い。そしてこれはファイナンシャルな側面も同時に備わっているという裁判手続きであるということですね。私は報復のところに関して伝えると、国連の専門家が集まって日本の私の逮捕事件は恣意的で私の人権を侵害したという報告書を国連の下で発給しております。それに対して日本の国家に対してきちんと調査をして、そして保証することということで、国連からの方からの意見書が出ているわけです。ですから、それからも分かるように、私は報復ではなく、自分の権利を取り戻すための行為を取っているということです。
Gohara-san, Gon-san says Japan's criminal justice system is just terrible, but civil system is a little bit better. You want to add anything? 日本ではまだ民事の方が刑事よりはまだマシだっていうゴハさんのことで何か足すことありますか？
私はゴーン氏に日本にとどまって刑事裁判を受けてもらいたいと思ってましたが、今改めて振り返ってみたときに、果たして今の日本の刑事法のシステムの下でゴーン氏に対して公正な刑事裁判が行われただろうかということを考えると、結果的にはゴーン氏がこのような選択をしたのもやむを得なかったと思うぐらい、日本の刑事司法のシステム、特に検察が特捜部の組織で行う捜査、起訴は極めて不当なもので、これはその点においてはゴーン氏の言う通りだと思います。
I was initially hoping that Mr. Gon would stay in Japan and defend himself in the criminal trial. However, since that time, I've reflected as to whether a fair trial could have taken place under the criminal justice system in Japan. And I believe the consequential, unavoidable choice that Mr. Gon made is something that indeed was something that was likely inevitable under the situation. Because in particular, the way that the special prosecutor's office acts, in the way it renders its indictments and its criminal prosecutions, there is a serious there's a serious problem here, I believe, in Japan.
Okay, next question. Karin-san. By the way, if you want to be facing Mr. Goon, he will be seeing the image shot by that camera, so you don't have to look around on the screen, but you can just look forward, and Mr. Goon will be facing you. Okay, so don't turn around. Don't bother to turn around. Okay, go ahead.
はい、小原先生、ゴンさん、Bonjour。じゃあ英語で。Radio France, Karine Nishimura. I have the same question for Carlos Ghosn and for Mr. Gohara. Do you think that the trial of Mr. Kelly was unfair?
はい、ゴーハラ様、ゴン様に同じ質問です。ケリー氏の裁判は不当だったと思いますか？
ゴーン氏に対する捜査、起訴と同様にケリー氏に対する検察の捜査、起訴は極めて不当なものだったと考えています。
This is Gohara. My opinion about Mr. Kelly's criminal proceedings and trial, extremely unreasonable, no different at all from that an extremely unreasonable investigation and indictment of Mr. Ghosn.
Do you want my opinion?
Yeah, go ahead,
Yes.
Mr. Ghosn.
Yeah, you want my
Also about the trial.
Yeah, but look, on the trial, I'm not a lawyer, so I will respect what Gohara-san said. But frankly, what they've done to Greg Kelly is really despicable. You know, the guy is sick, he's in the United States. There is a cooperation between the US and Japan. I just want to remind that. That means if frankly there was any doubt on him, Japan could have asked the US legal system to deal with Greg Kelly. Instead of that, they ambush him, bring him in cooperation between the prosecutor of Japan and the old boys of Nissan. They bring him to Japan, arrest him, and for this single charge of complicity in not declaring a compensation that was not paid and decided, they maintained him 3 years in Japan. 3 years in Japan. He was hostage in Japan. He could not leave for the United States. Out of his family, his career was stopped, his reputation was shattered, and after 3 years, they give him a 6-month suspended sentence. I'm not talking about the sentence. I'm talking about the fact that the punishment was the destruction of his reputation, maintaining him 3 years in Japan for something that frankly would have taken 1 month to judge. On top of this, just let me say something about the trial. The judge, Kenji Shimozu, when he emitted the verdict of Greg Kelly, he spent more time talking about me than about Greg Kelly, which frankly, when you show it to any judge in any other democratic country, they consider this a disgrace. Talking about me without my presence, without me being able to defend myself, coming from a judge is something which is not expected from an entity which is supposed to be objective and neutral.
Seth, please.
Yeah. そうですね、裁判については弁護士である郷原先生の方に、一任しますけれども、私なりに、答えていきます。ケリー氏の裁判は卑劣だったと、一言で言えます。なぜこういうことか。アメリカと日本は司法で協力体制を敷いているわけです。ですから日本の司法、検察はアメリカに頼んでケリー氏の方に対しての手続きを任せるということは十分できる、そういうことであるにもかかわらず、日本の検察当局と日産の長くベテランのトップの体制を組んできていたオールドボーイズたちは、彼らというかケリー氏を日本に呼び寄せた上でそこで逮捕しているという、そういう行為に出ている。しかもですよ、3年間日本を出国できない、キャリアストップで彼のキャリアをぶち壊しされて3年間日本に勾留されています。そして、判決は 6ヶ月間の執行猶予というもので、実際のその司法の罰則というよりも3年間で受けたひどい罰則を被っているんですね。たった1ヶ月の裁判で決心できるような内容に対して彼はどれだけ痛めつけられたでしょうか。そして石本裁判長ですか、すみませんちょっと名前が出て当時のケリー氏の裁判官なんですけども、検事石本って聞こえたんですけども、こちらの裁判官の判決においては、ケリー氏のことよりも私、ゴーンのことばかりを判決で話しているんですね。それは民主国家では大変失礼な行為に当たることについて、どういうふうに捉えたらいいのでしょうか。私自身の面前はそこの面前にいない。そこに私が自分のことを防御することができないところにおいて、司法を司る人間が、ある人間に対して、要するに、語っているわけですね。そういうようなことについて、考えてみたらいかがでしょうか。
ケリー氏の裁判についてちょっとコメントしたいと思います。ケリー氏の有罪を一部認めた刑事判決、極めて不当なものだと思います。法律的に考えたときに、開示義務違反を認める余地は全くないと思います。ゴーン氏が報酬の一部を繰り述べたと言って、そこの部分について開示義務違反を認めたんですが、これはもう極めて不当なもので、それと民事訴訟が関連するんですが、2022年の10月21日のところに書いてます。日産は禁商法違反ではないとしても、3枚目のところです。繰り述べ報酬を搾取すること自体が別の犯罪に当たる可能性があり、義務違反と主張しています。これはどういうことかというと、禁商法違反はさすがに難しいと、この開示義務を認めるのは民事上は難しいということを、おそらく日産の代理人弁護士もある程度予想しているんだと思います。そこで日産側が主張していることは、報酬を繰り述べる、開示義務がなくても報酬を退任後に繰り述べること自体が全館注意義務違反、違法だと、繰り述べ自体が違法だ、そしてその繰り述べたこと自体で、その報酬額と同額の損害賠償債務がゴーン氏に発生する、日産に対して発生する、だから同額で相殺するんだという、もうめちゃくちゃな理屈を主張してるんですね。これが裁判所が全く理解できないと言ってる日産側の主張です。日産側がこういう主張をせざるを得ないぐらい、この刑事判決で開示義務を認めたこと自体も全くでたらめで、およそ司法の世界ではありえない判断だったと思います。
So let me comment about comment on the court case of Mr. Kelly, where he was found partially guilty and convicted. It was the fact that he violated his obligation to disclose is what essentially it all hinged on. Because of the violation of the FIEA, no, not that directly, but because there was that violation and he failed to disclose that there were violations going on. And I also direct you back to the October 21, 2022 date piece of on my material that I handed out, where Nissan is essentially talking about the fact that there's a breach of obligation. Well, this obligation that they're looking at is this disclosure that was supposedly an obligation, because it appears that Nissan's counsel is starting to see that it will be very difficult to in their civil case to receive finding against the FIEA violation. That now they're saying it's likely that they're saying that the act of just postponing the remuneration, that act of postponing alone is the illegal aspect to this, and that therefore anything that is postponed is equally a liability that Mr. Gohn needs to pay back. This absurd logical logic in the assertions being carried out really are stark, and it also relates to the fact that the criminal case decision was so absurd and it's just completely crazy because the disclosure violation just doesn't really make any sense, even from the criminal trial decision and the conclusion that court reached.
Okay, let's go to Kaldon and then Ogata-san after that, and try to run as much time as possible.
Thank you, Jumbo. Marhaba, Carlos Wilson. Shukran li. Thank you for coming. My question is, I would like to touch base. We are hearing a lot of legal issues. We got lost in legality. We are just journalists. So is there any, if I touch base again, if there are any conspiracy against you, why were you arrested? If you could remind us about the reasons. And secondly, very quickly, you are very popular in Lebanon and the Arab world. Do you think you could join the political life in Lebanon? Many Arabs say you can provide great solutions for the economic crisis there. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to translate?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Gong. カルロス・シュポランダさん、法的な立場にない我々報道陣ですので、改めてその逮捕されたいきさつとその陰謀というのは何だったのかということを思い起こさせてもらえますでしょうか。また、レバノンでもかなり著名な立場を築いている以上、そのレバノンの国において、政界においても、活動を発揮できるのではないかという声も聞かれていますけれども、どういうお気持ちですか。
Okay, the first question is why I was arrested. Well, officially and in appearance, I was arrested on a single charge of not declaring, as you know, a compensation that was neither paid nor decided. This is the official scheme. And obviously after that, for many months, and by the way, I was alerted by this because the prosecutor, when he tried to obtain from me the infamous Seki-san, tried to obtain from me a confession, he told me, if you don't confess on that, we're going to be looking everywhere and we're going to find things we're going to be able to throw on you. So better to confess now so we limit the damage. If not, we're going to be looking everywhere and we're going to be attacking your family, your wife, your kids, etc. This is all recorded. And the recordings are in the hands of the prosecutor. When I told you that in my first press conference, some of the journalists asked for the access to the recording, and obviously the prosecutors said no, because there is very sensitive material. Obviously there is sensitive materials, because it's proving by 1+1 that the system is based on a confession, and if you don't confess, they're punishing you by bringing much more charges, alleged charges for you in the future. And that's exactly my story. That this is the official meaning. So why? Let me say why, behind this, why the old boys in Japan collided with the prosecutor, and in my opinion, with some members of the B team to do this, because they just didn't want any more of the alliance. They did not want any more of the alliance. They just did not want to be a perceived minor partner into the alliance with intervention of the French government into the governance of Renault, and maybe in the future in the governance of Nissan. They said, enough, it's enough. We're going to stop it. And the best way to stop it, and it's visible into many documents that now I have in hands, is to get rid of the head of the alliance. And frankly, they were right. They stopped me. I could not defend myself. They stopped the alliance. Now they are ending up with a mini alliance where Nissan practically recovered all its freedom. But you know, a free Nissan, I remind you, is a Nissan before 1999. That's exactly where we are headed. Now, for the second question, you're saying, am I interested in the political career? No, I'm not interested in the political career, and I've said it many times. Yes, my story has a lot of, support in the Arab world, not only in the Arab world, but even in France, in Brazil, and many countries. And I'm going to tell you why. Because people are shocked. They said, this guy worked for 19 years in Japan, for Japan. He saved a company that could not be saved by Japanese. That's why I've been called to Japan. He worked for them for 19 years. He was an ambassador of Japan for 19 years. We heard him in Davos. We heard him in many other things. He has been decorated by the Emperor of Japan. He was advisor of Koizumi, Prime Minister, to help bring foreign investment. And this is how they deal with him at the end. They were shocked. They're shocked. That's why there is sympathy. They said, but this is not the Japan we know. Japan we know is a Japan of loyalty. It's a Japan of recognition. It's a Japan of tradition. It's a Japan of respect for family. And all of this has been shattered. That's why people are shocked. And they said, no matter what this guy has done, if he ever done anything, he does not deserve to be treated this way. And this is the shock that created this sympathy. Everything else is a matter of law. We're going to go to the tribunals. We are going to defend my rights to the end. Nissan will have to pay for what they have done to me and to my family. And the people who contributed to aid will pay also. And frankly, the justice system in Lebanon is equivalent to the justice system in Japan. There is a justice in Lebanon. It is sovereign. People will be called to testimony, and then they will decide if I'm right or not. That's what I can tell you. But definitely, I'm not interested in the political career. It doesn't mean I will not help people elected in a democracy in Lebanon to shore up the country. Because obviously, if I'm popular, it's because people know what I've done with very, very large companies, shoring them up between Nissan, Renault, and Mitsubishi. And they say, if they have done this for this kind of very large company, maybe you can do it for a tiny country like Lebanon. Well, I'm, without any doubt, ready to help with my knowledge and my experience.
Seth, can you summarize it?
Sure. はい、それでは答えていきましょう。まず、逮捕された理由のところは、正式なところ、体裁つけているのは、本当に立件は一つであって、それはとして、まだ最終的に払われていない報酬について、その報酬に、そういうような報酬が決まっていたけれども、それが開示されなかったことですよね。そして、検察における関氏、私の担当官ですけれども、その検察官がやってきて、結局、言ってきたことは、自白しなさいと、しなかったらいろいろなエビデンスを探しまくるんだと、どんどん時間がかかるんだと、そして、自白をするとダメージが減るんだと、自白しなかったら奥様や子どもも苦しめることになるんだと、しかもこれ、全部録音されてるんですよ。だからその録音については、じゃあ出せるはずなんですよね、そういう。でも録音はデリケートだから出さないと、検察の方から一方的に出さない。でも結局、1+1なんですね。つまり自白が1、そしてその他の立件などが、後から結局来るんだというところに対する脅しです。そういうことに対して一つ。それから日産のオールドボーイズ、そして検察と、ひいては経産省のメンバーが結託して、何をやりたかったかというと、そのルノー日産アライアンスをもうお腹いっぱいだからやめたいんですね。それはなぜかというと、日産は見かけ上少数派に立っていると。そしてルノーにおいては、しかもフランス政府の介入が今後もどうなるかっていうところであって、もうこれはいらないんだと。で結局、トップを外したら、それがアライアンスの方が終焉に向かうという目論見通りですね、うまくいったんです。そして私は何も防御できませんでした。そして残るのが、このいわゆるミニアライアンスによって自由の身を日産が得たということですけれども、それは単に1999年よりも前の時代に日産が戻ってしまっただけです。もう一つの件は、政界に関しての関心があるかということですけれども、実はありません。結局のところ、私の方についていろいろ関心は高まって、アラブ圏、ひいてはフランスやブラジルでも私のことについて多くの人間がショックを覚えました。19年働いて日本人が救えなかった会社を救ったんです。 そしてダボスや他のところでアンバサダーをやってですね、一生懸命やってきました。天皇陛下からも叙勲を受けた人間です。投資家を日本に多く招き入れた人間です。日本は伝統を大切にする、家族の尊厳を大切にする、さまざまな意味で大切にする価値があるのに、それを全部踏みにじれることができる国なのかということで、ショックを大勢の人が世界中で受けたんです。このような処遇に関しては考えられないという形で同情が寄せられていますけれども、私はそういうことに対して、ただ家族や私にしたことを日産やそれらの人たちが私に払ってもらいたいという気持ちです。レバノンの司法は他の国の司法と何ら変わりません。そして、私の方としては民主的な国家でレバノンで選挙においては人を押すことはできます。それはルノーや日産や三菱などの大きな会社の中でやってきた経験を生かして、小さな国であるレバノンにおいては自分の知識や経験を生かしてサポートすることはできると思っています。
Okay, we're entering into the next training, but this is going to be the last question. 尾形さん、じゃあ最後お願いします。
Thank you for doing this. I'm Toshi Ogata with Arc Times. I'd like to ask about your escape from Japan in retrospect. So, many legal experts agree with you on your point, and I myself agree with you on your point that the Japanese legal system is a hostage justice and need an immediate reform. And many Japanese people applaud your contribution to Japanese society and also the Japanese business community, and people supported your achievement. But making a legitimate criticism toward the justice system and breaking the law and escape from the country hidden in the case is two different things. And you left Greg Kelly in Japan for the rest of the 3 years, and 2 Americans put into jail for nearly 2 years. So the reason why I ask you is that because of your act, you lost your moral authority, and that overshadowed this civil law case. So I'd like to ask you about, do you have any regret on in retrospect, do you have any regret on your decision to escape from Japan? And if not, are you going to? You will not be able to go. You will not be able to go to France. You will not be able to go to the United States, and you will not be able to go to Japan. So you live in a dark from a democratic society. Are you okay with that? That's my. I have a quick second point. There has been a talk in Tokyo legal circle, and in Kasumigaseki and in this and the metropolitan Tokyo area that you had a remaining balance for your legal fee before you escape from Japan. Is that true? And if so, do you have any? Are you prepared to pay off those outstanding balance? Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you very much for asking me these questions. I was looking forward to it. First question, do I regret leaving Japan? Not at all. Look, I'm not an idiot, and staying in Japan, I would have been the turkey of a farce, of a tragic farce organized between old boys in Nissan, the prosecutors, and as I said, also some people into the government of Japan. So, and I'm not idiot, I'm not a turkey. When I discovered through the procedures and the pre-trial that I have zero chance of having a fair trial, that the conclusion was already written on the wall, I had only one way out, because this was the best for me, for my family, and to be able to defend myself. Because I remind you that while I was staying in Japan, I couldn't talk to the press, which means the only version that the public knew is the version officially crypted by Nissan and unfortunately after that by Renault of misconducts. And I want to defend myself. So, do I feel regret? No. Did I lose a moral ground? Maybe. or the people who are a little bit naive in front of what happened. But frankly, when I see what happened with Greg Kelly, who for a single charge of complicity to defraud, of complicity into not declaring something, spent 3 years in Japan. So you can imagine for me, with the multiplicity of the charges that the prosecutor would have brought, I would have probably stayed following my own lawyers between 8 to 10 years in trials. After that, in the best case, I would have had a suspended sentence like a Greg Kelly, but frankly, spending 10 years in Japan, hostage, without seeing my wife, without being able to contact my family, for a man who was 64 years old, it's practically a death condemnation. So frankly, no, I said, I'm not going to go. I'm not a loser. I find solutions for problems, even the most difficult one. And this was the best solution for me, and I don't regret it. That's number one. And the moral grounds, the people who talk about moral grounds, they should look at the moral ground of the hostage justice system. This is what, frankly, people should be ashamed about it. And I wonder how Japan is going to be able to attract foreign talent in the future. Because anybody who wants to travel to Japan today, looking into my case and seeing what happened, frankly, he should have at least second thought before deciding to go there. The country is beautiful, the people are remarkable, but the hostage justice system is despicable, and as long as it stays, this is bad for morale, and this is what people should be feeling bad about it. That's number one. Now, when you talk about the insurance, well, this is scandalous that people are talking about the remaining. You know what? I was covered as a director by Sompo. Any lawsuit against me, Sompo should cover the expenses. Well, Sompo stopped paying my expenses, my legal defenses, on the frankly laughable argument that since my arrest, I was already in the mind that I would escape. So that I never intended to be judged in Japan, which is a total abstraction based on no fact, because I spent 1 year in Japan, I defended myself, I spent numerous hours with my lawyers, I begged the judge to be able to see my family, I begged the judge to allow him for my wife to come and visit me, and they ignored all of that. This is not the attitude of a man who from the beginning decided to escape. My escape was decided after 1 year of efforts from my side to try to find a little bit of light in this dark tunnel of the criminal law in Japan. And when I saw that there was no light at all and there will be no end of the tunnel, then I left. So the people who are talking about what I owe in terms of expenditure for some lawyers should first talk about the ignominy of an insurance company which is supposed to pay the bills and not only stop paying them, but now is claiming that I pay back what has been paid at the beginning under the only assumption that for them, from the beginning, I refuse to be judged in Japan, which is frankly based by no facts and certainly not supported by any behavior from my part, at least for the 9 months of my presence in Japan.
Yes, please.
Yeah. アークタイムズの岡田さんの方からですね、レバノンへ逃亡したためにですね、日本の司法、人質司法は卑劣なものだということ、あるいは日本社会ビジネス界に大きく貢献したことがあったにしても、結局その逃亡によってモラル的な高い立場にあった、高い倫理観で臨んでいた立場が基本的に台無しになってしまって、ケリー氏も3年間残し、2人のアメリカ人も懲役を食らうような形を残して日本を去っていったのではないかと。また東京の放送会や報道関係者の中には、弁護士に支払うべき費用が払われていない件に ついては残っている件があると出国してから、それについて支払う用意があるのかという質問が出ていましたけれども、出国については悪かったとは一切思っていない、そのまま日本に残れば悲劇として、作り上げている人たちの餌食になる、日産のオールドボーイズや日本の政府の人間の餌食になってしまうことだけだったというふうに答えます。そして、公正な裁判を日本で受けることについては確率ゼロであった。また、ケリー氏は3年間、報酬の控え時ということで、3年間日本に足止めされた結果となりましたけれども、私の場合はそれだけでは終わらない、裁判内容からすると8年から10年間裁判をするためだけに日本から一歩も出られないままずっと戦い続ける、そしてもしかしたら執行猶予で最終的には幕が下りたかもしれませんが、結局忘れないでくださいよ、家族にも妻にも会えない、それがずっと続いていたんです。そしてそれがずっとそのままずっと続く可能性があったということですね。それから報道陣にも話せないんですよ。これも忘れないでください。唯一出てくるのは日産ルノー、後からルノーという非常に残念なことだったんですけれども、が出すオフィシャルな私がやっている不正に関することばかりがメディアに出る。そういう人質司法の下で妻にも子供に会えないというのは、私は日本に残っていたら死んでいるのも同じです。負け犬ではありません。私は最善策を取りました。だから倫理観において、言うのであれば、人質司法という恥ずかしい事実について見つめることは誰もしないのか、早急に何か手当てしないのか、そして海外から能力のあるエグゼクティブが日本に赴任しなくなっていることになっていることは、その辺について考慮すべき点はないのか。倫理の問題はこちらの方が私が逃亡したという倫理の問題よりも大きいと思います。それから、保険会社さんのことについて触れておきますけれども、私は取締役として赴任していたので、それに対して私に対して起こされたあらゆる訴訟に対しては、保険会社は私の法務費を払うということになっていたんですけれども、最初から逃亡を考えていたからという後付けの理由で、保険会社は私の法務費を払っていません。そして私は最初から逃げているというふうに考えていたら、なぜ裁判所に家族に会わせてほしい、妻に会いたいということを陳述する必要があるのでしょうか。そのことと保険会社が言っていることと反しています。長い暗い刑法のトンネルに入っていて、光の一筋でも見えたら、私はそのまま勤めたと思いますけれども、一筋も見えませんでした。弁護士の支払いというよりも、支払うべき保険会社、しかも払ったものも返金ということを保険会社が言い出しているんですか。司法の裁きを受けるつもりのなかった人間ではありませんでした、当初は。
Okay. Obviously, we're running out of time. But Mr. Goon, last of all, do you care to comment on the fate of Michael and Peter Taylor, who helped you escape from Japan and who ended up serving a prison in Japan and in the United States? If you care to comment on that.
Yeah, sure. I met Michael Taylor in Beirut. He came to visit me. We had a long talk. He talked about his experience during the 2 years in jail in Japan. We are in good terms, and he continues his life, yes, as well as his son. So that's my comment. The only thing I would like to add as a conclusion also, because we spoke a lot about Greg Kelly into this case. Greg Kelly and Hiroto Saikawa signed the same document, were aware of everything, all the line. And frankly, until now, I do not understand how one of them has his reputation shattered, stayed in Japan for 3 years, has been judged, 6 months suspended sentence, his career and future, frankly, destroyed. His family also suffered a lot from it. And from the other thing, you have a guy who has not been annoyed at all. He had a little tap on the hand and is enjoying a very peaceful retirement in Japan. This really smells discrimination, and that's not good. That's not good at all. And frankly, I think this is one of the most shocking points. If Greg Kelly is innocent, which I think he is, then Saikawa is innocent. But if you think Kelly is suspect or guilty, then Saikawa is suspect and guilty. Why the different treatments? This is a question for you, and this is a question to many people who are observing the case. Why this difference between an American citizen who has been a loyal servant of Nissan, and from the other side, the CEO of the company who has admitted making things which were wrong, and who was, able to take his retirement peacefully with nothing else than that. That's what I want to put as a, final comment for this conference.
最後、マイケル・テイラー、ピーター・テイラーさん、お二人、日本で服役したことについてどう思われますかということで、ゴーン氏の方からの答えですけれども、レバノンに来て一緒に食事をしましたとマイケル・テイラーと話して、日本で2年間、刑務所にいとどまったことについても振り返って、以後、私たちの関係が良好であって、彼の息子のピーターとも同じであるというふうに答えています。あと今回、グレッグ・ケリー氏のことについての話が多く出ましたので、私の見解について、同じ文書にグレッグ・ケリー氏と才川博人氏はですね、サインしているんですね。一方が3年間日本で足止めとなって、そしてキャリア将来が潰されている一方、もう一人の人は小さなお咎めを受けただけで、割と静かな隠居退職生活を送っているという、この違いはどう捉えたらいいのでしょうか。差別的な匂いが強く不当に思いませんか。私はこのことこそ一番ショックであります。そして、才川氏は CEO の立場だった。ケリー氏は弁護士という立場を通して上位の経営陣としてその会社に関わっていた。それにもかかわらず CEO であった才川氏は悪いことをしたという認めた部分もあるにもかかわらず退職生活を静かに送ることができている。この大きな違いについて今一回最後の私の方からのコメントとします。
Okay, well, thank you very much. Mr. Gon, thank you for allowing us to go over time. Yeah, thank you. And by the way, the name of the judge that he mentioned in the Kelly's case is Shimozu Kenji judge. That's the name of the judge that Mr. Gon mentioned.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm sorry, Mr. Gon, I wasn't able to catch the judge's name accurately the first time.
No problem.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
裁判官の名前がシモズさんですね。失礼しました。石本って何とか聞こえてしまったんですけども、シモズ様でした。
Okay, so thank you very much for coming for the press conference. We're going to wrap up this press conference today. And Gohara-san, thank you very much for joining us. And anyway, I think he will stay around if you want to exchange your name cards with Gohara-san. Maybe you already have his cards. But anyway, again, thank you for coming for the press conference. The press conference adjourned. お疲れ様、小原さん。
Thank you.